Hey guys, welcome back. This is going to be the Kubernetes part 8 series 8 video of this Kubernetes series. So hope you have seen my Kubernetes part 7, which I just did a quick recap of what we did it from Kubernetes 1 till 6. Now, we have never touched or we have never started the Kubernetes because I wanted to make sure that we are good with the Docker. So that's why I had spent some time by publishing 6 videos of Docker. Now I feel let's jump into Kubernetes. So in order to jump into Kubernetes, I'm not going to talk about the components or some sort of theory things in this video. Eventually we have to talk. That is a separate part. But in this video, I'm gonna show you my environment about my Kubernetes on Docker. Okay. In the last 6 videos, we have used Amazon EC2 instance, the T2.micro instance type. Now, we are in a situation where we cannot use it because for Kubernetes, at least there are some prerequisites to be matched. For example, we need 2 virtual CPU and more than 1 GB RAM. Those kind of things comes into the picture. And if you're in, we cannot use the free tier actually in AWS. So now I will show you what is the alternative. We have many alternatives in order to practice Kubernetes, but I will show you one of the alternatives which I will be using for some days. But eventually, after some days, after some practices, we will try to use Amazon EKS as well. That is a different part. Now, in this video, what we're going to do here is, let me log into aws.amazon.com, go to sign into the console. Okay, so what we have done, we have created EC2 instance and we had installed Docker in that, and we were playing around with the Docker things, correct? Now, if you see, I was using something like T2.micro. That is what I have done so far in my previous videos. But if you need to understand what is this T2.micro, if you want to know more about this instance types, I would suggest go through my AWS workshop series. Yeah. Now, if you go to instance types here, yeah, now if you see T2.micro, which is nothing but it has only one virtual CPU and one memory. Now, this is a problem. For Kubernetes, you need minimum 2 virtual CPUs. So I will not be under free tier if I'm using something else, T2.small or T2.large or something, because only AWS gives, if you go for AWS free tier, so if you go to the second link, so you will see something here. So if you see this, it says 750 hours and it says T2.micro or T3.micro. That is only free tier per month. So obviously if you're using T2.micro, which is one virtual CPU and one memory, no, Kubernetes will not work. And if you go for T3.micro, 2 virtual CPU, but still it has 1 memory gig. It should be more than 1 memory gig and more than 1 virtual CPU. Okay. Now, what is the alternative? If you're going for something else, if you go for T2.x large, obviously it will cost you more. That is not free tier. You have to pay money. So what I have done here is, my laptop, it's a Lenovo laptop, and if you go to your run option, if you type WinVer, I'm using Windows 11. This procedure which I'm going to explain to you, this will work only on Windows 10 and Windows 11. Okay. So what I have done here is, if you Google it, okay, if you just Google it, Docker install on Windows, okay. So the first link, click on the first link. So it just gives you a software. It's asking you, the Docker itself is asking you to download a software called DockerDesktop. So this DockerDesktop, you have to download it and you need to install it. So and this will be supportable only for Windows 11 and Windows 10. And it has minimum 4 GB RAM and 64-bit processor. That's it, nothing else. Okay. Now, what I have done here is, in fact, I had already downloaded the Docker desktop. So how do you do that? You just click on Docker desktop for Windows, it will automatically download. I have already downloaded, so I just want to pause this. Okay, so if you go to my downloads folder, I already downloaded last week on this. Okay, so what I will do is, you have to download it completely, then you need to double click on it, open it, and it will ask you for the permission. Just click on yes. So it's asking whether to add shortcut to desktop. You just check it and then put OK. So it will take minimum of 1 or 2 minutes, so let's wait. Okay, so now just click on it says installation succeeded. Click on close. That's it. Now let's open Docker desktop. Yep, here we go. Okay, it's opening it up. Click on accept the license agreement. So this will take a minute or two to bring up everything. So now it's asking you to follow some tutorial. So I'm going to skip the tutorial. So what the tutorial says, it will tell you to create a container, download an image, those things. Okay. Now, if you see this, we got the Docker desktop. Now on the left side, it would tell you the containers which is currently running. So now we don't have any containers running. Whatever you see, it's just a sample tutorial which they have given. That's it. Okay. Now, if you click on images, there is no images. If you click on volumes, there is nothing. So what we have done, we have installed a software called Docker Desktop, which is primarily for Docker. Okay. Now, if you go to PowerShell, okay, Windows PowerShell. So here, if you type Docker, so you should get a message or some sort of commands whether Docker is installed or not. So Docker is there. Okay. So if you type Docker PS, no containers. If you type Docker space images, no images, which is eventually matching here. No containers, no images. Now, what you do here is, if you type, I want to launch a container. Okay. So Docker run hello world as a container. So what it will do, it will try to find the image, it will pull, then it will exit out. So if you type Docker PS -a, see the hello world container exited out. Yeah, great. Now if you go back to your Docker desktop, see you got an image called hello world, and also there was a container which was exited out. So if you go back to PowerShell, if you type Docker images, see there is one image is there. Okay, so just like this, for example, Docker run busybox something. Yeah, so if you run this, the busybox image will download, image will be there, and container will start and exit out. That's it. So if you see Docker space ps space -a, see there are two containers, one with busybox image and the other one with hello world image. Same thing, if you go for Docker images, there are two images. Yeah, so see in Docker desktop you have two containers which are in exit state, and then images, there are two things. So now we have Windows PowerShell where we are interacting. So we don't need AWS EC2 instance for these kind of learning purpose. That's what I meant. Okay. Now if you go for CMD, okay, if you go for CMD, which is a DOS prompt, DOS command prompt, which you can do the same thing. So Docker PS, nothing, Docker PS -a, there are two containers which got exit out, Docker images. So whatever you are performing with anything with related to Docker, you can use DOS command prompt or PowerShell. Okay, fine. Now that's fine. Now you can ask me, Samir, I'm not good with, because I'm a Linux guy, I don't want to play around with DOS or PowerShell, because Linux guys always do ls, list out. It will be a problem, so that flow will be missing actually. So if you type ls-lrt, but ls will work in PowerShell, but ls-lrt will not work. Yeah, so those kind of things, so even in command prompt clear will not work. You have to type cls, something like that. So there are a lot of things over here. So if you feel I need some sort of Linux flavor or something. I think we can try git bash also. I'm not sure whether this works or not, but I can try. Docker ps. Yeah, it's working. Docker ps-a, yeah, it's working. Docker space images. So you can use git bash also, ls-lrt. Wow, I think you can use git bash, guys, if somebody from the Linux flavor. And I want to tell you one more thing. So Samir, we have done this fine. I got the setup. Now the next setup is something about Kubernetes. Okay, make sure you have this. When you type this command kubectl, you have to get these kind of commands instruction. It means that your kubectl is one of the tool for Kubernetes. Just remember like that for now. We will explain in detail in next couple of videos, but for now you need, I'm setting up the environment, so you just follow along with me. Kubectl is like, in a kubectl is like a Docker. Okay, whatever you're typing Docker, so if you type kubectl, it means that you are going to execute the Kubernetes commands. That's it, guys. So if you type kubectl, now if you type run, and I'm gonna run something called my first pod, and then hyphen image, then if you type nginx, so let's see what happens. Okay, it says unable to connect to the server, dial TCP something. I'm going to run the same command over here, kubectl run my first pod, hyphen image nginx. Let's see what DOS. Okay, you're getting the same error. It says unable to connect to the server. Okay, now let's do this in git bash. Kubectl run my pod something, hyphen image nginx. If you say it's not able to connect to the Kubernetes server, which means that Kubernetes is not running, the server is not running. Okay, remember guys, when you install Docker Desktop, you will get Docker and Kubernetes, but Kubernetes default it will work. Okay, I mean sorry, Docker default it will work, but not Kubernetes. So when I say work, you cannot run any kind of commands. That's what I said. Okay, so what we have to do is you have to open the Docker Desktop. In order to resolve this error, you need to open Docker Desktop. Okay, now go to settings on the top here, and then go to Kubernetes and click on enable Kubernetes. This is very important. Yeah, when you click on enable Kubernetes, only then you will be able to execute these commands, kubectl commands. Okay, so once this is done, just click on apply and restart. This will take minimum of 3 to 5 minutes. So it will say starting, and after 3 to 5 minutes you are up and running. Yeah, so if you see this completed. Yeah, now next thing what we'll do here is if you minimize this window and come back to your DOS prompt or PowerShell. Yeah, now let's execute the same command. If you see the C, your command is executed. I mean, even though you don't understand, I don't want you to understand what exactly this command does, but at least just make sure that your environment is good. I mean, you're setting up this environment. Okay, so even if you go to the PowerShell, if you execute the same command, see, okay, pod is already exists. So because of this name, so I'm going to add another D here. See, that is also working. Now let's execute another. See, perfect. So if you type kubectl getpo, all good, all good. Now we have enabled Kubernetes. This is just for learning purpose, guys. Okay, for production setup and all, we will talk about in a different manner, but this is just for the learning purpose. I'm trying to reduce the cost. We don't need to go use AWS for that, but if you go for kubernetes.io website, even they are saying if you go to learn Kubernetes basics, go to tasks on the left side. So if you go to install tools, so you can use a tool called Kind, you can use a tool called Minikube, so you can use a tool called kubeadm. We can set up your Kubernetes from various options, but the one options which I'm saying is something different. Okay, so if you see install kubectl on Windows, click on it. See, it just gives you a couple of options here, blah 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 blah. Okay, you can try this as this also. Yeah, so rather I'm trying all these things, I'm just using a very easy way. Install Docker Desktop, and that's it. and just enable Kubernetes, and you're up and running. You can learn Kubernetes without any extra cost. Okay, cool. Now I want to tell you one more thing. Samir, there is an option in Microsoft Windows 10 and Windows 11. So here you can see there is something called Microsoft Store, right? Here, this icon. So click on this icon. So Microsoft Store will open. Now we can use any kind of Linux flavor by downloading it from the Microsoft Store, and you can launch your Ubuntu terminal there. So that is the beauty of it, okay, using some sort of technology called Windows Subsystem Linux, WSL. That's a different part, but go to Microsoft Store,